Welcome to our 2021 She Knows Where She's Going Legacy Luncheon, sponsored by our friends at First Financial Bank. I'm Susan Stahl, Executive Director of Girls Inc. of Jefferson County, and I'm here to thank each of you for supporting this project that has truly become a labor of love. Because we cannot meet in person, this year presented a unique opportunity to do something different, to honor the legacies of three strong, smart, and bold women while involving our girls in all aspects of the production. I'd like to give special thanks to staffer Christian Call and the girls who have participated both behind and in front of the camera. So I welcome you to sit back and be inspired by the lives of these three strong, smart, and bold women, Janice Voss, Sarah Morgan, and Jane Jacobs. We'll see you in a bit.
Janice Voss was born in South Bend, Indiana, and raised in Rockford, Illinois. She also has family roots that connect her to DuPont, Indiana. Voss visited the area in her childhood and returned several times to speak in Madison and Hanover. She even served as the Grand Marshal for the Regatta Parade in the mid-90s. She graduated from high school in Massachusetts in 1972. She earned a bachelor's degree in engineering science from Purdue University in 1975. She also earned a Master of Science degree in electrical engineering in 1977 and a doctorate in aeronautics and astronautics in 1987, both from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Janice began her career with NASA in 1973 while a student at Purdue. She returned to NASA in 1977 to work as an instructor teaching entry guidance and navigation to space shuttle crews. After completing her doctorate, she worked in the aerospace industry. Only 566 people have traveled to space, and of those, only 65 have been women. Janice was selected by NASA to join them in 1990, and she became an astronaut in 1991. She was part of STS-57 in 1993, STS-63 in 1995, STS-83 and STS-94 in 1997, and STS-99 in 2000. The first mission in 1997 was cut short by a technical problem, and when that crew, including Janice, took on a second mission the same year, it was the only time in the history of human spaceflight that two missions had exactly the same crew. Her last mission was an 11-day flight that helped map 147 million square miles of the Earth's surface. Her 5 missions tied her with the record for the most space flights by a woman. Overall, she spent more than 49 days in space and traveled 18.8 million miles while circling the Earth 779 times. From 2004 to 2007, she was the science director for NASA's Kepler Space Observatory, an Earth-orbiting satellite designed to find Earth-like planets in nearby solar systems. Following that, she served as the payloads lead of the Astronaut Office Station branch. Purdue University honored her with the Voss Model, a scale model of the solar system. Orbital Sciences, where Janice worked in her early career, launched the SS Janice Voss in 2014 as a tribute. The cargo ship flew to the International Space Station with experiments and supplies. According to her family, it was in elementary school when Janice first decided she wanted to become an astronaut. She never wavered. When obstacles came her way, she took on new challenges without ever letting go of her goal.
So very happy to share with you some of our memories of Janice coming through as she was thinking of becoming an astronaut. That starts in early education.
Yeah, in kindergarten, her kindergarten teacher recognized that Janice had some special capabilities. As a result, they put her in a special first and second grade class, and then by the time she finished 1 year, she was in third grade.
The educational system all along had been encouraging to Janice to be a good, strong student and stay with it, so she never lost sight of where she wanted to go. Direction was important to her.
Have you ever watched a Star Trek movie or a science fiction movie? Science fiction was what got my sister started to become an astronaut. When we were little girls, we spent summers on the farm here in Madison, Indiana. Grandma would take us to the Madison Jefferson County Library on Main Street in Madison because we all loved to read, all four of us. And one summer in 1966, when she was 9 years old, she discovered a story that introduced her to space exploration. It was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeline L'Engle, and she was so excited reading it. She thought it was the best thing that she'd ever read. It was about a girl, a teenager, who had to go into space to save her father. And Janice loved the story because it was all about everybody pitching in. She had to travel with her family to save her father. And everybody did what they could. They pulled in all of these technologies. They worked together as a team to accomplish this space mission. And Janice was hooked. So after that, that was what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a space explorer, be the girl who could be picked for the mission. And so she worked really hard in school, and she took 25 years, but was able to, after 6 tries, get into the astronaut corps. Janice reminded us of the best part of ourselves. Even among her astronaut class, she was known for her enthusiasm. She never lost that little girl who in 5th grade decided that she wanted to be an astronaut. That little girl with the fierce dream was the core of Janice's heart.
Follow Your Dreams was Janice's theme. She conveyed this message to many people as she went to schools on trips for the astronauts. So she would like to say to students and people who are young at heart, I loved being an astronaut, every aspect of it. I know in my heart I could not have followed a better path.
Sarah Morgan was born in Wilmington, Ohio, to Ronald and Betty Turner. She was a graduate of Wilmington High School, where she was a member of Phi Delta Sigma in 1971. She graduated from the University of Cincinnati, where she was a member of the Kappa Alpha Theta sorority. After college, she served in the Vista Washita Valley Community Action Program in Oklahoma from 1971 to 1973. She married John Scott Morgan and was actively involved in many facets of the family business at Morgan Foods, Inc. in Austin. She was a member of the First Christian Church of Madison. She embodied the idea to bloom where you are planted. Wherever she was, she engaged with the community and offered what support she could. She was a vital part of organizations in both Jefferson and Scott counties in Indiana and in Wyoming. The things that were important to her were clearly reflected in the organizations she chose to serve. She dedicated her efforts in particular support of children, animals, nature, and the arts. She was a supporting board member for the Light White Memorial Boys and Girls Club, a lifetime member of the Madison Jefferson County Humane Society, a member of PEO, Chautauqua of the Arts, and an advisory board member for the Yellowstone Park Foundation. She was a former board member for the Madison and Jefferson County Community Foundation, serving from 1995 to 2001, and a founding member of the Scott County Community Foundation. She was also a former board member for the Indiana Commission for Women and the Board of Advisors for the Ido George Museum in Indianapolis, and a member of the Explorers Club in New York City. She was an avid and accomplished photographer, and her love of travel and the mountains and animals of Wyoming were reflected in her photographs. Those photographs are far from the only legacy she had left behind. Her much larger legacy is one of the thoughtfulness, generosity, and joy.
I have been asked to tell you a little about the Sarah I knew. Sarah served on many important boards and was a philanthropist, as you probably know. Born and raised in Ohio, in a family that cherished libraries and education, she attended the University of Cincinnati. After graduation, she joined the Peace Corps and went out west to work on a reservation with Native Americans. I did not meet Sarah until she married her second husband, but I quickly realized that she was a critical thinker, one who followed her own mind and was not led by others. For that reason, we became fast friends. Even though Sarah lived an affluent life, she never put herself above others and was always a champion for people at all levels of the social strata, particularly the blue-collar and essential workers. Sarah and I served on the Indiana Women's Commission together at one point, and she opened my eyes to my own implicit biases, for which I will be eternally grateful. Sarah Morgan loved children. It is regrettable that she left this world at the young age of 59 before meeting her 3, now very rambunctious, grandchildren. I remember when my own daughter was a young mother, reading all sorts of books about parenthood, questioning cloth diapers are disposable, trying to figure out the bath bottle bed routine, pacifier or no pacifier. As Sarah was rocking my newly born granddaughter, her advice to my daughter was, "Don't worry, it will all be fine. She will grow up, finish school, and then all these early concerns will be long forgotten. Just be sure you enjoy your time with your child." My daughter has never forgotten that sage advice, and recently reminded me of that conversation laughingly, now that she has 2 in college and 1 in high school, still trying to enjoy life with her children. Sarah.
We spent a lot of time together. They were such a generous couple. They included us and the kids in every event, every party, everything that they did. And as they included a lot of the neighborhood. And I'm always grateful for that because they were so gracious. We wouldn't have had that kind of fun without them. But she had a lot of interests, but mainly animals. She had these beautiful dogs, photography, and she loved crafting. Photography played a big role for both of them. They were both really good photographers, and they had traveled with Kelly to Africa many times on photography safaris and come back with these fabulous pictures of animals. And John still does that and works with groups that are trying to stop poachers. I mean, they're all humanitarian things. And so besides photographing safaris, they photographed every prom in the neighborhood that happened, thousands of pictures, them with their big camera lenses on the sidewalk taking pictures of whoever was there. And there were thousands of pictures of people I never saw again, particularly dates of the girls. And then they'd print them all up. We'd have these stacks of photos from them. Sarah later on got, I don't want to say obsessed, but in the 90s, she was very interested in George Strait, if you know who that is. He's a country singer. He was in Pure Country. And she would go to every concert that he was performing in and come back with 8x10 glossies of him that she took. She snuck on stage somehow and would get up real close and take close-up shots of him from the side of the stage. I mean, I had photos like that of George that she thought I would like too. One day, one derby, Kentucky Derby that they were at, she said, well, she saw him go in the men's room. He was there. And so she went over to the men's room and stood by the door to wait for him to come out. And Kelly told me I could tell that story. And I don't know what happened when he came out. I mean, that was a secret after that. I don't know if they spoke. I don't know what happened. But anyway, she was, I would say, terrifically interested, maybe obsessed with George Strait. And then later on, when they got their home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, she started taking photographic lessons with this man. His name's Tom Murphy. I'll show you the book. He's like the Ansel Adams of Yellowstone. And it's all nature and everything. And so she was taking lessons, and she gave me these pictures she took. And she learned how to use the lighting from him and everything. And we were there in 2007, but she really was good at that. She was involved in a lot of stuff, and she was my good friend, and I miss her. A memory of Sarah that I have is in 2004 when my husband had a horrible car accident. And it was back when not everybody had a cell phone, and it was just a very difficult time. And I didn't know Sarah on a personal level particularly. I knew her through Girls Inc. and through the generosity of the Morgan family. But she would call me, and she would ask how I was doing, and just incredibly kind, and truly cared. She truly cared about how I was doing, but she would send me phone cards so that I would have phone minutes so that I could call people while I was at the hospital, and which to me just shows what an incredibly thoughtful person she was. She didn't have to do any of that, and that has just always meant so much to me. So fast forward, when we were doing our renovations here at Girls Inc., and we went to visit John and Kelly to ask if they would be interested in being donors in that campaign. And we really wanted our main building to be the Sarah Morgan Building for Girls, knowing full well how private they are, and but we wanted to ask because it just meant a lot to us. So as we were sharing stories, first of all, John and Kelly had no idea that she was sending me phone cards and signing their name, which I thought was pretty funny. And they recounted a story that Sarah really loved it when our Girls Inc. girls walked to the pool, because we would walk by their home, and she loved watching them, and she loved hearing them when they walked down the street. And so that was really special to us. But they did make the decision. Our main building is the Sarah Morgan Building for Girls, and they wanted Sarah's legacy to be preserved. They wanted people to know who she was. And I will say that I have had many opportunities to talk about Sarah Morgan because of just that. Not only with people who were walking down the street, but with the girls. The girls want to know who Sarah Morgan is, and so we get to tell her story, and that means so much to me. But again, those are just some wonderful memories that I have of Sarah and the kind of person that she truly was.
Jane Jacobs was born in Madison, the daughter of Donald R. Sr. and Mary Good Garber Wallace. The family lived elsewhere before returning to Madison for good when she was in 7th grade. She was a member of the Madison Consolidated High School class of 1963. She was the great-great-granddaughter of Michael Christian Garber, who moved to Madison in 1849 after trading his dry goods store and raising son for a newspaper. The paper remained in the family, with Jane taking over as the first woman publisher in the 5th generation of the Garber family to lead the paper in 1989. She saw the Madison Courier through many changes, embracing new technology and new platforms, all while working to maintain the important role of a community newspaper. Most people would assume being a publisher was a desk job, but that was far from how Jane did it. It was rare to even catch her at her desk. She was just as likely to be found helping in the mailroom, jumping in her van to deliver papers, or even showing up at an event that needed to be covered. Jane worked tirelessly, often behind the scenes, to improve her community. She coordinated the newspaper's annual Firecracker 10K race as part of the Regatta Festival and co-founded the community's annual presentation of Handel's Messiah with Cliff Taylor. She also co-founded and taught in Madison Presbyterian Church's preschool and was a founding board member of the Community Foundation of Madison and Jefferson County. She was also a former board member and president of the Jefferson County Youth Center, which is now Pathways, a former board member and drives chairman of the Jefferson County United Way, former board member of the Englishton Park Presbyterian Ministries, a member of the Madison Area Chamber of Commerce, and Ruth Havens, Jefferson County Traditional Services. She also served as a board member of Casa Amiga, Historic Madison Inc., the Salvation Army, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Jefferson County, where she was former chair for Bulls for Kids' Sake. She was also a member of the Coalition Against Substance Abuse, Indiana Republican Editors Association, and the Madison, Ohio Valley Community Chorus. She did too many other things to help others to continue listing them here. Many people have benefited from Jane's kindness and compassion, and most will never know it. It was always more important to help people, not to receive recognition. That legacy lives on through Jane's Kids, a summer scholarship fund with the Clearinghouse of Jefferson County that funds helps families have access to safe and fun summer programming for their kids. Jane co-founded the program with Sarah Steston in 2014, and it was renamed in Jane's honor following her passing.
Most of you would know my mother as a successful businesswoman, as a community leader, and as somebody who cared about people, and that's all true of her. But I've been asked to maybe talk a little bit more about her personal side, and I had a unique perspective on her because, of course, I knew her as a son, and I knew her as a co-worker and as an employer. So I spent a lot of time with her as an adult, and gave me a look at her from several different angles. At work, of course, she was the boss. She could be intense as the boss, and she could be serious, and she was all that, but she also had a quirky side. So my mother enjoyed music. She enjoyed the arts of all kinds, and she supported them and worked for them. And it was not unusual for her at work to break into song, sometimes for no reason. I think sometimes if she felt the mood was too heavy, she'd just do it to sort of lighten the mood. She also she took tap dancing lessons when she was, I don't know how old she was, 60 maybe. And after that, it seemed like she would often, when she'd get up to leave the room or leave her office, as she would get going, she would do some little dance move. It would, I don't know, it was like 2 steps back and a little hitch, and then she would proceed forward. And I can see her doing that over and over again, and it's something that I really sticks in my memory. Another thing that always sticks in my memory from the office is she would write notes on her hand or on her arm, and so you'd be talking to her, you'd be in a meeting, and she'd be looking down at her hand or her arm, and she'd be reading her notes from her hand or her arm. And I do think one time she went through the office for part of the day with a Post-it note on her forehead as well. And if you're a new employee, you really probably had to question that. But the rest of us knew that she wasn't crazy, she was just quirky. One of my fondest memories of her was spending time in the back office at the Courier, which was my grandfather's office and was her office, and then later my office. And she and I would often end the day there and kind of recount the events of the day and maybe plan the next day. And sometimes we'd get to joking around and we'd get to laughing. And she would often laugh so hard that just tears would stream down her face. And my grandfather was the same way. So I had that experience with both of them in that same setting. And their mannerisms were exactly the same. They'd put their head back and they'd pull their glasses off, and then they'd dry their tears with their hands. And I mean, the mannerisms were exactly the same. My mother was a great grandmother. Well, she was a grandmother, but she was great at it. And part of that was her ability, again, to be sort of quirky and lighthearted. And she, my children and both my brother and my sister's children, I think found her very relatable, and they loved to spend time with her, and she loved to spend time with them. And I think she taught them a lot of lessons without them even understanding that they were being taught, and that those lessons were being passed down. But so, you know, those are my thoughts about her. She was a well-rounded person. She could be serious. She was a hard worker, and she was just a lot of fun to be around. And you know, we all miss her. So.
I don't know that there's much that I can tell you that you don't already know about Mom's legacy, you know, of good works to the community. She loved Madison, and she literally loved all the people in it. And she worked tirelessly for that community and for people in need. And I guess, as she liked to say about her own mother, I can now say about her, in that she was a good old gal. And I think everybody here would agree with that. But again, you know all that about her. I am going to tell you a few things that you may not be as familiar with. You know, she was not all down to business like you probably maybe think of her. She was fun-loving. She loved Carnival Ride. She loved, I think, all rides. That's how I became a big fan of them. She would go with me, and she had introduced me to the Tilt-A-Whirl, and I can remember us riding that and riding that and riding that. To this day, I cannot go to an amusement park without thinking of her pretty much the whole time. See, what else? She liked music. She liked to sing. She sometimes would actually just sing her sentences. Like if you were talking, instead of answering you with just, you know, conversation, she'd just sing the sentence. Now, to be clear, she did that for effect. It was not like, you know, she was crazy or anything like that. But yeah, she loved music. The point is, she had a lighter side, and it was wonderful. But first and foremost, the thing about her is that she was an all-star mom. She loved hard, and she was unshakable in her commitment to her children and to her grandchildren. And we miss her. We miss her.
And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my friend Jane Jacobs. She moved here about the second grade, I think, from Columbus, Ohio. She is my cousin, and I can't really explain all this except that it's through the Garbers. It's like third cousin once removed or some crazy thing. Anyway, we have been best friends ever since she arrived, and we went through school together all through until the 10th grade when I left for a while. But oh gosh, growing up, we just had, you know, she was pretty silly. I know that people may not know that about her, but she was. And when we were little girls, I had a swing set, and we would pretend that we were Angelina and Angelita, circus orphans. And they'd say, and here, you know, we'd imagine somebody introducing us, and we'd run and do swings and turn upside down on the bars and all that sort of thing. We were the circus princesses. We were some. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Then as we got older, we got into a little more mischief, maybe But probably the most significant thing about Jane, and I think we all know, is that she cared for other people. She cared for other people much more than she cared for herself. And she had, there's a group of us that take a trip every year, high school friends, and it's to a spa. And Jane was a little reluctant to go because the first time we were there, she got a mani-pedi, and she said, look at my toes, look at my toes. She was so excited. And it made us all just smile. Then the next time she girded her loins and went and got a massage. And she came out of there like, ooh. She was so happy. So we were delighted to have that happen. But she did take care of her mother. Mrs. Wallace lived till she was over 100 years old, and Jane took care of her. And also that newspaper. She was so responsible for that paper that I know her dad did this too, but sometimes if a carrier didn't show up, she got in the car and delivered papers, and she was the publisher. So, I mean, that's the kind of business woman that she was. She was highly respected all around the state, as was the courier itself. She was probably, and I mean this sincerely, the greatest woman I have ever known in my life. And I find it, I miss her every day.
We hope you enjoyed this year's presentation. Be sure to tune in today at 5 p.m. on Facebook Live when the girls share the results of this year's flower auction sponsored by Colonial Flowers. And mark your calendars for March 2022 when our affiliate turns 50 years old and we once again gather together to honor 3 strong, smart, and bold women. But until then, thank you! Everyone stay safe.
Before you get started?
Do I have to read that part?
No.
Okay.
Like you.
Did you take a picture?
Nope.
You should have.
Ready to give it a try?
Yes.
I forgot what I was gonna say.